Good morning. Welcome to the 135th regular meeting of the ALPA Executive Board. As I said to open the meeting, we are at the start of a very busy week. However, there is also no better opportunity for us to live up to our mission of working together and collaborating to make our careers and industry safer and stronger. As I navigate my term as ALPA president, one of my guiding principles is the desire to break down barriers between pilot groups, committees, and across our industry to find new solutions and ways of working that make our union, profession, and industry stronger and safer. I believe that when we work together, we are stronger. When we craft new partnerships with regulators, other unions, and industry stakeholders, we are stronger. As we all gather in one place this week, I hope we all have the opportunity to collaborate and break down barriers. As pilots, safety is ingrained in everything we do. And as we meld our governing bodies with our safety bodies this week, let's keep that spirit of collaboration. Twice per year, I have the honor of delivering my report before you. And as I reflect on the business of our union, I'm always struck by what ALPA has been able to accomplish in just a few months. There's no doubt that ALPA keeps on moving. Together, we've accomplished incredible things on behalf of our members, and yet again, I'm proud to say we're getting it done. One of the best examples of the success of our organization over the past year is that we were able to meaningfully raise the bar for our industry in safety and negotiations, exercising the full resources of our union while still having enough of a surplus to be in the historic position to offer to return $50 million in dues to our members. As we sit here today, you should have all received your dues return offer, and I want to recognize that this was no small feat by our team. Once we decided to offer this return to our members, our IT, finance, and communications teams jumped into action to develop new systems and a campaign to make sure that every member could receive their offer electronically or with a physical check. I'd also like to recognize all of the ALPA leaders who worked with me to enact this plan. ALPA has never offered a national dues return like this before. And with the rest of the National Officer Team, the Executive Council, the Structure Services and Finance Review Committee, we made it clear to our members that we are responsible stewards of their money. We will continue to work to find ways to save our members' money while offering the highest value for their dues dollars. The offer represented 30% of dues that went to national and 16% of total dues collected by ALPA in 2023. Members had an effective 2023 dues rate of approximately 1.55% after depositing their checks. I'd like to commend the MECs who also offered their own return of dues for reminding their members that at all levels of the organization, we are committed to being responsible stewards of their dues. In addition to offering to return dues to our members, we're effectively investing them in your career, your livelihood, and the future of our profession. In the months since we last met, we got the FAA reauthorization across the finish line when President Biden signed the final bill, secured key appropriations language to protect against our tax dollars funding the advancement of reduced crew operations, provided resources for members facing furloughs, won new contract protections for labor rights in Canada that will prevent employers from using replacement workers during a strike and prevents management teams from weaponizing the essential service provisions against labor, and supported our members through negotiations, informational picking, and contract ratification. And that list doesn't even touch upon the hundreds of ways our volunteers and staff benefit the lives of our members each and every day. We're streamlining and improving how ALPA does business, but we've also have a real fight on our hands when it comes to reduced crew and single pilot operations. If you're joining us for the Air Safety Forum, you'll hear all about the risks RCO poses to aviation safety and what we're doing to stop it. But this is a threat that ALPA is taking seriously and working hard to stop. Last month, I joined leaders of the International Federation of Airline Pilots Associations, ALPA, and the European Cockpit Association, ECA, in writing a letter to CEO of Airbus expressing our concern about cybersecurity and other risks associated with RCO in the wake of the CrowdStrike outage. This letter was part of a larger campaign that we're partnering with ALPA and ECA to elevate the voice of pilots and prioritize safety when discussing RCO. As pilots, we all recognize that there is no such thing as a perfect flight or a perfect aircraft. Stuff goes wrong, plans change, and we all rely on having at least a second set of eyes, ears, and hands on the flight deck to respond and recover. That's why we are so concerned about Airbus's efforts to introduce single-pilot capable aircraft in just a few years. We need our allies at ALPA and the ECA to pressure regulating bodies in their home countries and regions to ensure that the regulatory hurdles stop RCO from becoming a reality before it's too late. We're doing our part in the United States and Canada, and we've had success. In the FAA reauthorization bill, our pilot advocates and professional staff worked with our allies on Capitol Hill to introduce new language that prohibits the FAA's newly formed Unmanned and Autonomous Flight Advisory Committee from reviewing and developing recommendations related to operations conducted under Part 121. We also secured language in the appropriations bill for the Department of Transportation to prevent the use of funding to further the cause of RCO. You can see that language on the screen behind me. To continue advocating for our concerns with reduced and single pilot operations, I met with FAA Administrator Michael Whitaker in July to explain why this is such a threat to safety. And later this week, I'm meeting with Secretary of Transportation Buttigieg to discuss this existential threat to aviation safety. We are committed to keeping the lines of communication open with all regulators and lawmakers to ensure that they understand what is at stake. In May, I spoke before a gathering of aviation policymakers, airlines, manufacturers, and other influential stakeholders at the International Aviation Club here in DC to ask for their partnership in opposing reduced crew and single pilot operations. In that speech, we unveiled our latest white paper detailing the myriad of issues associated with reduced crew ops. Our white paper is a detailed accounting of all the ways RCO is a bad idea. And in my eyes, it should be mandatory reading for anyone trying to carry out this gamble with safety. Our work to defend aviation safety and security is never finished. And in addition to our opposition to reduced crew and single pilot operations, ALPA is leading the charge against threats to aviation safety and security, like the exploitation of the public charter loophole. There is a growing segment of Part 135 operators who are working to run essentially Part 121 scheduled airline operations under the lower standards of Part 135. Same routes, same airports, even the same planes, just with some seats taken out, but their pilots aren't held to the same high training and qualification standards that we are under Part 121. And their passengers aren't held to the same security standards. One of their marketing talking points is even that passengers save time because they don't have to go through the normal TSA screening process. This week marks 23 years since the September 11th terrorist attacks. We've seen what can happen when aviation security fails. We will never let that happen again. We've partnered with Representative Nick Langworthy, who represents the town in New York where Colgan Flight 3407 crashed in 2009, on the introduction of the Safer Skies Act to require Part 135 and Part 380 airlines to follow TSA airport security protocols and ensure one level of safety and security for all scheduled passenger airline operations. Our experience as safety experts and advocates is a key piece of our ability to support the well-being and careers of our members. Not only do ALPA members benefit from the safety gains that we've won over our 93-year history, but when an incident happens, they have 93 years of experience to guide them through investigations and hearings. This summer, The crews of Alaska 1282 and FedEx 1432 experienced that support firsthand during an NTSB hearing. I'm proud to be honoring these crews' heroics later this week, but even though they saved the day in both of their events, they still face the stress and uncertainty of intense scrutiny of their actions. ALPA's support during investigations like this is an invaluable benefit, even if it is one that our members hope to never have to use. Whether it's through an NTSB investigation or through negotiations, ALPA is always working hard to support the careers and well-beings of our members. We currently have 15 pilot groups in negotiations, and we pledge the full weight of our negotiating muscle to each of our pilot groups. We have each of your backs for whatever you need, and we can offer all support and ideas that will advance these deals. When I took office, I committed to bringing down the walls that for too long divided our pilot groups. And I empowered the Strategic Preparedness and Strike Committee, SPSC, to do whatever it takes to help our members to get the contracts that they have earned. When one pilot group succeeds, we all succeed. And I'm proud of the culture we have developed together. Gone are the days when pilot groups refuse to talk to each other about what's happening in negotiations. That is no more evident than looking at the support for Air Canada's cooling off period ending next week. Pilots around the association are stepping up to help Air Canada pilots who joined ALPA just over a year ago plan and execute their endgame strategy. I was proud to stand with the Air Canada pilots along with members across our organization when they held their all-base picket last month. To the Air Canada pilots, we will continue to stand with you until you have the contract that you have earned. We have your back. We also have the pilot groups like FedEx and ATI that are years into negotiations without a clear end in sight. It is the unity that you have built that will win you the contract that you have earned. And I applaud the tenacity and creativity that you are bringing to the table even after more than 1,000 days in negotiations. Another way that ALPA works hard to support our members' careers is by advocating for pilot interests at the U.S. State Department and DOT when those agencies negotiate with other countries. For example, 2 weeks ago when the Japanese government sat down with the U.S. for air service talks and ALPA was in the room. The goal is to lift slot restrictions at Tokyo Haneda to allow for more U.S. flights, more passengers and cargo rights, and ultimately more pilot jobs. We hope to have further progress to report on this in the months ahead. As we negotiate new contracts for some and advocate on behalf of our members internationally, we're working to facilitate a merger between Sunwing and WestJet and a potential merger between Hawaiian and Alaska. As Sunwing and WestJet merge, we will become the bargaining agent for the Sunwing's pilots on November 30th. We are excited to welcome them into our ranks and prepared to ensure that their new membership with ALPA is a step forward in their careers. Since I took office, we've experienced incredible growth as an organization. Through merging with Air Canada, welcoming new pilot groups like Air Inuit, and ongoing hiring, we've added over 10,000 pilots to our ranks. The power of a union comes from strength in numbers. A union is always more than the sum of its parts, and this growth will only serve to make us better advocates for our members. However, I recognize that these are turbulent times for pilots at several of our airlines. At the beginning of the month, 186 Spirit pilots were furloughed, and earlier this year, 53 Mesa pilots were furloughed. We are committed to supporting any ALPA pilot facing turbulent times at their airline, including our continued commitment to the pilots of IRO and Lynx, who ceased operations earlier this year, and the pilots of Raven through corporate restructuring and a round of furloughs earlier this year, where most pilots have been able to be recalled or moved to other airlines. I was furloughed at the start of my career, and I understand the pain and uncertainty that these pilots are facing. But ALPA is prepared to aid any pilot facing furloughs or any other career uncertainty. I'd also like to commend the MECs who took action without hesitation to help their ALPA family. Solidarity is easy on good days, but it is our commitment to each other on the bad days that tells the true story of our union. Before I close, I'd like to recognize that this year marks the 50th anniversary of one of our internal staff unions, the Union of Airline Pilots Association's Professional and Administrative Employees, Unit 2. Just as ALPA pilots are critical to the success of each of our airlines, our staff are critical to the success of our union. Unit 2 is a key part of the staff support structure at ALPA. We acknowledge their success and appreciate our long and collaborative relationship built on mutual trust and respect. Thank you to all our staff and for all your hard work on behalf of the members, and thank you to you, ALPA Pi Unit 2, for your 50 years of partnership. It is through our solidarity that we have won record-breaking contracts in the past 2 years, made aviation safer, and will stop the threat of reduced crew and single pilot operations. The united culture that we have built at ALPA is the advantage we bring with us in everything we do. By working together, we have redefined our career and our industry, and we're just getting started. Before we meet again, we will face our fair share of challenges, but with our strong and united voice, we will overcome them and continue to build a stronger and safer profession, industry, and union for every ALPA member. Thank you.